Why do I have an ostomy? Let's discuss. When I was 13, I started having horrible diarrhea and really bad stomach pain, and I actually had a lot of blood in my diarrhea. So of course, naturally, my parents took me to the doctor, but the doctor I saw basically just said that I was a nervous child and there was nothing to worry about. Thankfully, my parents were not okay with that answer, so I saw another doctor and we continued pursuing this, and it turns out I actually have Crohn's disease. If you don't know what Crohn's disease is, it is a chronic inflammatory disease of my GI tract. Lots of inflammation throughout my GI tract, with tons of different symptoms. Probably too many to go into on this video. I was a freshman in high school when I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease, and I was so incredibly sick. I had to be homeschooled. Basically, every single day I spent in bed. Numerous times I can remember my parents finding me on the bathroom floor because I literally could not get up and I could not walk to get back in bed. My dad had to actually pick me up and carry me to the bed. I was so weak and so sick. I tried all the different medications. I was on prednisone, so I had the beautiful moon face from steroids. I went on Remicade, which actually did send me into remission briefly. I had been on Entyvio. I did Humira. Way more than that. More than I probably need to get into, but you get the gist of it. After being on Remicade for a year, I went into remission, and that pretty much got me through the rest of high school, so I could kind of live a little bit of a normal life, and it got me through the beginning of college. Once I kind of hit my sophomore, junior year of college, I started getting really sick again. And by this point, I had had Crohn's disease maybe like 6 years. Fast forward through tons of sickness and bloody stool and diarrhea and pain and weight loss, all the horrible things. I went in for a routine colonoscopy. It was actually the best I had been feeling for a really long time, thinking that everything was gonna be fine. A week later, I was standing in my kitchen. My husband was at work all by myself, and I found out that my colon had turned precancerous. I was 24 years old at the time, and I had no idea what an ostomy was. I just heard precancerous, totally freaked out. I had no idea what was in store for me. So I met with my doctor and I met with a surgeon, and I had a few options. Get an ostomy and have my rectum removed at the same time. Basically the safest bet, meaning that nothing would turn cancerous and I would never have the threat of cancer to worry about. Another option was to kind of do like a resectioning and remove a little bit of my colon where they found the precancerous tissue. But if I did that, I was gonna have to go in routinely for colonoscopies to make sure there was no cancer forming or no progression. And of course, the last option was to do nothing. The one thing that I was absolutely adamant about was that I did not want an ostomy. I was not going to have an ostomy, and there was absolutely no way you were going to change my mind. I was 24. I was not going to live like this for the rest of my life because an ostomy is permanent. But literally a last-minute decision changed my mind, and it was a very intimate conversation I had with my surgeon, who was extremely black and white, which I'm happy to get into on another video. But yeah, I ended up with an ostomy, and I have it for the rest of my life. People think I'm crazy when I say this. I don't think you really understand unless you've gone through it, but it's literally been the best thing that's ever happened to me. And it's the best decision that I've ever made for myself and for my family. And it's given me back my life. I say all the time that I never knew what I was missing. I thought it was normal to be that sick. My ostomy has helped me realize that it's not normal to be that sick. And I'm able to live happily and do all the things I love. So that's why I have an ostomy. It's not going anywhere. It's permanent, staying here. I'm 31 years old now. Hopefully have it for a long, long, long time. Anyways, we're all done here. So I'll see you guys later. This is pregnancy with an ostomy part 2. If you don't know, I have been pregnant twice with my ostomy. I have a 3-year-old and a 20-month-old. Bag changes are that little bit of time during the day where I have that privacy to myself. So let's take the chance to talk about pregnancy with an ostomy. So I just got my hair done this morning and I still have a little bit of dye in my face. Let's just go with it. I don't really know what it's like to be pregnant without an ostomy because I had surgery before I had children. But I assume it's pretty similar to, however, a few differences. So something a lot of people always wonder about is, will my stoma change, or how will this impact my stoma? And yes, it did change for me. Basically what happened with both of my pregnancies, my stoma grew. My first pregnancy, it didn't really grow too much, but my second pregnancy, it grew a lot. It almost looked like it was prolapsing. Honestly, it was kind of freaky to see my stoma grow so much and almost look like it was prolapsing because I never experienced that before. And I typically have a really small stoma, so to see it grow like this much and kind of hang out like that, a little alarming. But I think the craziest thing is that even though my stoma grew so much, it was like that most of my pregnancy for both pregnancies. But as soon as I gave birth, you know, just a few weeks after, when your body's kind of like returning to normal, stoma actually shrank up back to its normal size. I did talk previously about how I had to switch from wearing convex wafers to flat wafers, and that made a huge difference. And so a product that I really loved during pregnancy was, which I actually still wear today, are the Convatec moldable wafers, because my stoma grew a lot and like it continued to grow. And so having the moldable wafers were nice because I was easily able to just mold it to the size of my stoma. I'm also terrible at cutting wafers, and so I have to deal with like wafers literally cutting into my stoma. It's not a pretty sight. Also really fortunate in both of my pregnancies because I didn't really have terrible blockages. Kind of seen some horror stories about people who have had blockages, which definitely kind of made me a little like, I didn't have any blockages with my first pregnancy. My second pregnancy, I did have 2 minor blockages that were actually very painful, but they were able to be resolved at home. It's just something to be conscientious about when you're pregnant. Another thing to consider when you're pregnant with an ostomy is dehydration. It is really important to stay hydrated when you have an ostomy, but also when you're carrying a baby. Hydration is important for anyone in general, but when you're pregnant, make sure you stay hydrated. I don't want to end up in the ER having to get fluids. Okay, well, we're all done with our bag change. It's Saturday, so we're gonna go buy plants that we don't need. But if you have any more questions about pregnancy with an ostomy or my experience, let me know, and I'll continue making these videos because I feel like they're probably really helpful, and I didn't have anything like this when I was pregnant, and I would have loved to see something like this. Anyways, I'll see you guys later. So I've posted a few videos recently of me in bikini at the beach, and I've gotten a lot of questions about my leg. I have this giant vein popping out of my leg, so I thought I would take a moment to address it. Just a little backstory, I do have an ostomy, and the reason why I have my ostomy is because I have Crohn's disease, which is one of 2 conditions that branch out underneath of IBD, otherwise known as inflammatory bowel disease. Actually, if you didn't know it, individuals with IBD are 3 to 4 times more likely to have a blood clot. This crazy vein in my leg I've had for a while now, almost 2 years, because it popped out when I was pregnant with my son. But recently it's really started hurting, almost to the point of like, I really can't walk around a lot and do a lot of activities. As an IBD patient, it was also kind of a red flag to me, knowing that we're 3 to 4 times more likely to have blood clots. So I knew I needed to get checked out. In case you haven't seen this vein and you have no idea what I'm talking about, here it is. I'm happy to report that I don't have a blood clot. It's actually just varicose vein. Up here in my hip, my veins have a really wide opening at the junction. So I'm having tons and tons and tons of blood just flow, and I'm having a lot of vein reflux. So basically I have a ton of excess backflow, and it's causing a lot of pain in my lower leg. The news is that there's a procedure that I will have done in a couple months. Until then, I get to wear this super sexy compression. You know what? As long as it makes me feel better, whatever. And I guess really the point of this video is just to let all you IBD warriors out there know we are at a greater risk of having blood clot. It is really important to advocate for yourself and for your health because you're the person who knows your body the best.